On August 4th, 1964, the United States reported a terrifying naval battle in the Gulf of Tonkin. A battle so intense it would push America into a full-scale war. There was just one problem with the story of that night. The attack, it never happened. This is not a theory, this is a fact, confirmed by declassified documents and the words of the very people who were there. So how did a story of phantom torpedoes and stormy weather lead to a decade of brutal warfare? This is the anatomy of a lie, a deep dive into the Gulf of Tonkin deception and how a government can lead a nation into war by selling them a ghost story. The Domino theory and the fear of communism in Southeast Asia set a tense stage for American involvement in Vietnam. This wasn't a peaceful region, it was a Cold War flashpoint. Into these waters sailed the USS Maddox, not on a routine patrol as was publicly stated, but on a clandestine Declassified mission, a form of espionage. Its job was to collect signals intelligence on North Vietnamese coastal defenses, actively pushing the boundaries of territorial waters and supporting secret South Vietnamese commando raids. The tension was real, and on August 2nd, it boiled over. 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats launched a very real attack on the Maddox. After a frantic exchange of fire, with U.S. fighter jets scrambling to assist, the American destroyer repelled the assault, damaging the torpedo boats and suffering only minor damage itself. This first incident was real, documented, and it left the sailors on edge, primed for a fight and expecting further retaliation. The stage was set for the chaos of August 4th. Conditions were abysmal. A pitch-black night, a violent tropical storm that tossed the ships, and near-zero visibility. The sailors were exhausted and on high alert. Crucially, the sonar on the USS Maddox was known to be faulty, prone to creating false echoes in rough seas by picking up the ship's own propeller noise. In this cauldron of fear and confusion, a young sonar operator detected what he believed were incoming torpedoes. Panic spread like wildfire. Reports flooded the chain of command as the destroyers began firing at radar blips that weren't there, maneuvering wildly to dodge attacks that never came. Yet, even in the heat of the moment, there were serious doubts. Commander James Stockdale, the lead pilot flying above the supposed battle, had the best view of anyone. His report was unequivocal. "I had the best seat in the house to watch that event, and our destroyers were just shooting at phantom targets. There were no boats there. There was nothing there but black water and American firepower." The captains of the ships themselves, hours after the chaos subsided, cabled Washington, urging caution and admitting the entire event may have been caused by freak weather effects and over-eager sonar men. Despite these urgent warnings from the men on the scene, the narrative in Washington, D.C. had already taken on a life of its own. President Johnson and his Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, chose to ignore the doubts. They needed a clear, unambiguous act of aggression to justify escalating the war, and the phantom battle of August 4th was the perfect pretext. This is where doubt turns into deception. Decades later, declassified National Security Agency documents revealed the truth. A top-secret internal history by NSA analyst Robert Haignac concluded that the agency had deliberately altered intelligence reports presented to policymakers. Signals intelligence that showed no evidence of a North Vietnamese attack was intentionally withheld and distorted. Original translators who found no trace of an ambush were pushed aside, and reports were rewritten to create the impression of a coordinated, unprovoked assault. Based on this manipulated intelligence, President Johnson went on national television delivering a somber address about repeated acts of aggression. The Gulf of Tonkin resolution sailed through Congress with almost no opposition. The lie had been codified into law. The consequences of that night, phantom torpedoes, were devastatingly real. The resolution became the legal justification for the entire Vietnam War, leading to the deployment of hundreds of thousands of American troops and the start of massive bombing campaigns like Operation Rolling Thunder. It was a war born from a lie. The story of the Gulf of Tonkin is a chilling lesson in how intelligence can be manipulated to serve a political agenda, a lesson that echoes through history, from the justifications for the Iraq War to the modern-day battles against disinformation. It reveals how easily a nation, gripped by fear and patriotism, can be led down a path of conflict based on a narrative crafted in the shadows. The final, unsettling question is not just whether the attack happened. We now know it didn't. The real question is how a nation founded on principles of truth and accountability could be so thoroughly deceived by its own leaders. It is a ghost that still haunts the American conscience, a reminder that the first casualty of war is often the truth. What do you think about this pivotal moment in history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And for more deep dives that challenge the official story, subscribe to Stories to Share.